Two dots over the Pacific. June 20th, 1944, 18,000 feet above the Philippine Sea, west of Saipan, late afternoon. The sun is already beginning to sink, turning the ocean below into a sheet of dull copper. Heat haze ripples off the water, blurring the horizon until sky and sea bleed together. At this altitude, the air is thinner but still heavy, humid, oppressive, clinging to metal and men alike. Two Allied fighters cut across the sky. They are alone. Lieutenant Jack Mallory, U.S. Army Air Forces, grips the control stick of his P-38 Lightning, the twin engines droning unevenly beneath him. His aircraft carries the scars of earlier missions, patched flak damage, oil stains that never quite scrubbed clean. To his right and slightly behind flies Captain Owen Reeves, his wingman, matching speed and altitude with practiced ease. They were never supposed to be here. This was meant to be a routine long-range patrol launched from a rough coral strip carved out of a captured island. Sweep the area, deter enemy reconnaissance, be home before sunset. Instead, radio contact with base has faded into static, and the Pacific has grown uncomfortably quiet. Mallory scans the sky ahead, eyes moving in disciplined arcs. No bombers, no friendly formations, just empty blue and the faintest flicker of movement far off to the north. "Reeves," he says into the throat mic, voice calm but tight, "You seeing that?" A pause, then, yeah, multiple dots, high fast. The dots grow larger with alarming speed. Japanese fighters. Not a handful, not a patrol. A swarm. Mallory's stomach tightens as he counts them. First 10, then 20, then more, pouring out of the sun like sparks from a grinder. Mitsubishi Zeros and Kai-43 Oscars, light, agile, deadly in numbers. They fan out instinctively, already maneuvering for altitude and angle. "Jesus," Reeves breathes. "There's got to be 50, maybe more." By the time the enemy closes, the number is unmistakable. 60 fighters converging on two Allied aircraft. Mallory doesn't curse, he doesn't shout. Training takes over, cold and precise. "Stay tight," he says. "No straight lines, we make them pay for every pass." There will be no running. The P-38 is fast, but not fast enough to outrun this many interceptors, not this far from friendly cover. The first attack comes from above. Japanese fighters dive in pairs, noses down, tracers streaking past Mallory's canopy. He jerks the Lightning into a hard climbing turn, twin engines roaring in protest. The G-forces press him into the seat. His vision narrows. Reeves slides across his tail, guns already firing. The sky erupts. Machine gun fire rips through the air in bright, intersecting lines. One Japanese fighter flies straight into it, disintegrating in a burst of smoke and flame. Another spirals away, trailing debris. But for every attacker that falls, two more slide into position. The enemy pilots are fearless, some reckless. They swarm from every angle, climbing under the Lightnings, diving from above, pressing in so close Mallory can see the red circles painted on their wings. A burst of cannon fire slams into Mallory's left boom. Warning lights flash. "Taking hits," he snaps. "Same here," Reeves replies, fuel pressure fluctuating. Mallory forces his breathing steady. He eases the stick, resisting the urge to yank harder. Over-control will kill him faster than the enemy. They fight as a pair, always turning toward each other, crossing fields of fire, forcing the Japanese pilots to fly through overlapping streams of 50 caliber rounds. The tactic works, but only barely. Minutes stretch into something unreal. 5 enemy fighters go down. Then 10. The ocean spins below them, endless and uncaring. Sweat stings Mallory's eyes. His right engine runs hot, too hot. He tweaks the mixture, opens the cowl flaps, watching the temperature needle hover at the edge of red. Another Zero rams through Reeves's gunfire, exploding just yards from his canopy. Shrapnel rattles off Mallory's fuselage like thrown gravel. Jack, Reeves says, voice suddenly strained. We can't keep this up. Mallory knows it too. Ammunition is running low. Engines are screaming under sustained combat power, and the Japanese pilots keep coming, some of them clearly prepared not to pull out at all. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the pressure eases. The fighters break off, some damaged, some low on fuel, others simply unwilling to chase two stubborn aircraft any farther west. One by one, they peel away, disappearing back into the haze. The sky empties. Mallory doesn't relax, not yet. Sound off, he says. I'm here, Reeves answers, barely. Mallory checks his gauges. Oil pressure is dropping on the right engine. The needle trembles, then dips again. Land now. The island comes into view at last, a thin strip of green and coral rising out of the sea. The airfield is crude, scarred, but it might as well be paradise. Mallory lowers his landing gear. The right engine sputters, coughs, then steadies just enough. He brings the Lightning in low and slow, coaxing it down. Wheels hit the strip hard but straight. The aircraft rolls, shudders. And the right engine dies. The propeller seizes with a metallic shriek. Mallory brings the aircraft to a stop, heart pounding. Seconds. That engine had seconds left. As ground crews run toward the fighters, Mallory finally exhales. He looks back down the runway where Reeves is touching down behind him, smoke trailing faintly from one engine. Only now does the full truth settle in. They didn't escape. They survived by inches, by discipline, by refusing to give the sky what it wanted. The moment the wheels stop rolling, the adrenaline drains all at once. Lieutenant Jack Mallory sits motionless in the cockpit, hands still wrapped around the control stick, knuckles white, chest heaving. The sudden silence after combat is almost painful. No gunfire, no engines screaming at redline, just the ticking of hot metal cooling in the tropical air. Ground crewmen reach the aircraft and immediately freeze. One points at the right engine. Oil streaks the cowling in thick black lines. Another man ducks instinctively as steam hisses from a ruptured line. "Shut her down, sir," someone shouts. Mallory nods, reaching for the switches with fingers that tremble now that the fight is over. The engine is already dead. He kills the rest of the systems and pushes the canopy open. Hot, wet air floods in. Only then does he notice the smell: burnt oil, cordite, scorched paint. The smell of a machine that has been pushed beyond reason. Behind him, Captain Owen Reeves brings his own P-38 down the strip. His landing is rougher. One wheel bounces. The aircraft slews sideways before settling. When it stops, smoke curls lazily from the left engine. It doesn't die. It just barely keeps running. Two fighters, one after the other, both scarred, both intact. Men run toward them, shouting questions that don't have answers yet. How many did you see? Where they come from? How the hell are you alive? Mallory climbs down the ladder, boots hitting coral dust. His legs threaten to give out, but he stays upright, forcing himself to walk toward Reeves. Reeves pulls off his helmet, revealing sweat-soaked hair plastered to his forehead. His face is pale beneath the tan. 60, Reeves says quietly, as if still counting. I stopped counting at 60. Mallory nods. He doesn't contradict him. They walk together along Mallory's aircraft, and the ground crew falls silent as the damage becomes obvious. Bullet holes pepper the booms and wings. Shrapnel scars gouge into the fuselage. One control surface is chewed nearly through, held together by rivets and stubborn luck. A fuel line has been pierced and crudely sealed by airflow and pressure alone. A crew chief whistles low. Sir, that engine wouldn't have made another circuit. Mallory looks back at the seized propeller. I know, he says. Only now does the full scope of what happened sink in. They gather in the operations shack as the sun dips lower, the room thick with heat and cigarette smoke. Maps are unrolled on a table. Intelligence officers listen, eyes narrowing as Mallory and Reeves recount the engagement, attack vectors, aircraft types, numbers, altitudes. The numbers make men shift uneasily. 60 fighters, one officer repeats, "You're sure?" Reeves meets his gaze. They came in waves. If anything, that's conservative. Silence hangs for a moment. No one questions the kills. Radio intercepts already confirm frantic Japanese transmissions, reports of heavy losses, claims of ramming attempts, confusion, shock. A mechanic steps into the doorway, face serious. Captain Reeves, engine number 2 compression, gone, bearings are shot. She seized as soon as he throttled back. Reeves lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "On the ground," he says softly, "not in the air." That detail spreads fast. By nightfall, the story has traveled across the island. Pilots pause mid-sentence when the names come up. Men lean in closer. Someone sketches the engagement in chalk on a mess hall wall, 2 dots circled by dozens. The conclusion is unspoken but understood. If either man had hesitated, if either had broken formation, if either engine had failed 30 seconds earlier, there would be 2 empty patches of ocean instead of 2 battered fighters on coral. Later, alone near his aircraft, Mallory runs a hand along the scorched metal of the boom. The plane is quiet now, harmless, almost fragile in the fading light. It doesn't look like a machine that survived 60 enemies. It looks like something that should have fallen. Reeves joins him, holding 2 cups of bitter coffee. "They'll probably ground her," Reeves says, "too much damage." Mallory nods. She did her part. They stand there in silence, listening to insects buzz and engines being worked on in the distance. The war will continue tomorrow. New sorties, new odds. But for tonight, the ledger is closed. 60 came for them. 2 came back. And 1 engine waited, patiently, almost mercifully, until the very last moment to give up. Morning comes slowly on the island, heavy with heat and salt air. The coral runway is already alive when the sun rises. Mechanics working shirtless in the humidity, tools clanking, engines coughing awake for aircraft that will fly again today. But Mallory's fighter sits apart from the rest, surrounded by men who move with unusual care. The right engine is finished. When they pull the cowling free, the truth is immediate and unforgiving. The crankshaft is cracked. Bearings are welded together by heat. Shrapnel has torn through the oil system, starving the engine inch by inch until it finally seized. A chief mechanic shakes his head slowly. "She was running on borrowed seconds, Lieutenant." Mallory watches from a few steps back, helmet tucked under his arm. He doesn't interrupt. He doesn't need the explanation. If that engine had failed 30 seconds earlier, on final approach, on descent, or still over water, the aircraft would have yawed violently. At low speed, low altitude, there would have been no recovery. No crash crew. No runway. No margin. Just jungle or sea. Captain Reeves walks over from his own aircraft, which is faring no better. His left engine is being stripped down, cylinder heads laid out like bones on a canvas sheet. The verdict is the same. "Grounded," Reeves says quietly, "both of us." Mallory exhales, figures. They stand there for a moment, watching other pilots climb into cockpits, watching propellers blur into motion. The war doesn't pause for miracles. By midday, word arrives from Group Command. They're wanted for debrief. Not a routine one. In a stifling hut lined with maps and charts, intelligence officers listen again as the story is retold, this time slower, more deliberate. Angles, timing, discipline, how 2 aircraft never separated, how they resisted the urge to chase kills and instead stayed mutually protective. One officer finally leans back in his chair. "You understand," he says carefully, "that most pilots would have tried to run." Reeves nods. "That's what they expected. And you didn't because..." Mallory answers before Reeves can, because turning away would have meant showing our backs, and because once one of us broke, the other was dead. Silence follows. Not admiration, not disbelief. Respect. Later that afternoon, the radio crackles with intercepted Japanese transmissions translated by linguists on the island. Reports from surviving pilots describe a pair of Allied fighters that refused to disengage. Others mention ammunition exhaustion. One fragment stands out. "They would not fall," a Japanese pilot reportedly said. That line circulates quietly among the men. In the mess hall that night, someone buys Mallory and Reeves a drink, then another, and another. No speeches, no cheering, just nods and quiet glances from men who understand exactly how thin the margin was. Reeves eventually raises his glass. "To engines that know when to quit," he says. Mallory allows himself a small smile, and to not finding out the hard way. Days later, both aircraft are officially written off, stripped for usable parts, wings and fuselages marked with chalk. They will never fly again. But the pilots do. After a short rest period, Mallory and Reeves are assigned new aircraft, new serial numbers, new engines, same sky. Before his next sortie, Mallory pauses beside the old fighter one last time. The coral dust has settled into its scars. It looks strangely peaceful now. He places a hand on the fuselage, not sentimentally, just once, briefly. "Good timing," he murmurs. High above the Pacific weeks later, Mallory flies again, this time with a full squadron, this time with numbers on his side. But he never forgets the lesson burned into him that day. Outnumbered doesn't mean beaten. Damage doesn't mean dead. And sometimes survival has nothing to do with skill in the fight, and everything to do with discipline after it. The official report will list the engagement in neat lines and figures. 2 Allied aircraft. Approximately 60 enemy fighters engaged. Confirmed enemy losses, 14. Allied losses, none. But those numbers don't capture the truth. The truth is quieter. 2 pilots trusted each other. 2 machines held together just long enough. And 1 engine waited until it was safe, until the wheels were on coral and the war for that moment was over, before finally giving up. That's how close it came.